My name is Bill Hollenbeck, and I build Archtop guitars.
And I try to get fairly close grained structures on my instruments, although they do vary. When I cut this, what we call book match, I will make this joint before I glue it will be perfectly fit. My lumber is at least 10 years old. I can be very consistent on my dimensions and everything.
And I have a regular set of pattern guides that I use to do this. Now, then once I get that carved the way I want it, then I turn it over and I carve the inside out to match the outside.
See, now this is one that I've started cutting. I have what I call carriers, and this side is pretty much shaped to what I want. You hear the sound? You can listen to this, and it changes all the time as I'm carving and cutting on it. And it gets more and more responsive when I start doing the actual work. I work in thousandths of an inch on the guitar building in half degrees. Like my neck angles are like 4.5 degrees. If I put a little more arts, I have to go 4 3/4 degrees. So I actually measure this, the thickness of this, and I can find the high places, and I'll mark it. As I come out, this gets thicker. So I can actually control what I'm doing. And what I go for is the best overall response of where my bridge and saddle sits, because that's where the strings hook into it.
I make my own bridge and saddles, and I'll have to cut this. See, this is perfectly straight, so I will trim this to fit this top. This will be set to this guitar, and it will stay with this guitar. All tops are not exactly the same. The saddle that sits on top of this, and then I'll cut my notches, put my tailpiece on, and I'm ready to set it up to put this type of binding on the edge. This is a plastic. The old traditional style and so forth is what I'm kind of carrying, is it has multiple binding on it. It takes a long time to do this, longer than it does with wood, but it just depends on what the person wants. But all it does is seal the edge of the units and protects the corner. I also use a 5-piece neck. It's 2 pieces of maple on the outside, and then I usually use walnut just for highlights. And in the center one, I usually either leave it plain or contrast to the 2 outside ones. It makes a very stable neck. Is a piece of quilt maple, and I stained it so to highlight the quilt effect, and then a piece of rosewood. This is square when I make it, and I'm just starting to round it. I do all this first, and then I come back and shape this in by hand. When I do my shaping of my neck originally, and then all the shaping and everything, it's just actually removing wood. If somebody orders one, I will make that contour do what they want, how they feel it. Because some guys like a round neck, and some guys like a flatter neck. This is the way it works out, and it's ready to be glued on a chamber.
The pickguard will go back on here, which I got trouble on the base side of this thing, so you have to so it's fit in. My tailpiece will sit on here, and then these cover up the points of contact. So also see, this sits on here. I still use a metal tailpiece because I think the sustain is better.
The thing that I have going for me right now, and I get the best response off of, is that this thing doesn't diminish on sound from one end of very much from one end of the fretboard to the other. They can't believe how they can move up and down the whole length of the neck, and the sound doesn't drop off someplace. The tailpiece, you don't see anybody. I have yet to see anybody that's got the same kind of tailpiece. It's metal. It's different. It's my machine head. They call it a scallop. Okay, well, the reason I did that was that this guitar, when you tune guitars, usually you're rubbing your fingers along the side, and what I did was I set this up so that you can get in here and have some room to tune it. You can walk by and pick up my guitars, and the Hollenbeck sound is there.
So it's a carved maple top and with no F-holes. Seymour Duncan humbuckers on it with coil cutting switches. If you want to have like an old Chad sound, that's single coil. Now if I put it back in the humbucker, you'll hear the difference.
This guitar is designed primarily to play the notes clean and even, and if you play some of the vintage guitars that can be upwards of $30,000 and $40,000, and you play one of Bill's, I like Bill's better. They're fabulous. They talk to you, and as a guitarist, the music and the soul of the guitar also has to do with the music. And Bill, in each of his guitars, and I've been lucky enough to play all of his guitars that he's built, have a certain soul. They're all different, but I still hear Bill Hollenbeck's guitar, and I mean, you can pick up any one and you hear them.
225 to 250 hours per guitar.